Another vocabulary recommended by the linked data book is the music ontology. So let's take a look at that, simply because music is something that I imagine all of you are going to be familiar with, so it makes for a good example. Now, the music ontology has several groupings of types of entities. So you have the basics, which include things like musical work and composition and recording, describing the type of thing that is the piece of music. Is it sheet music? Is it a recording, etc.? You have descriptions of the release. So, for example, you have an event. So if a band releases an album, they might throw a big party. There's your release event. The label, the record label that a record or CD is being issued under, that sort of thing. You get characteristics of the recording, the signal. So digital, analog, bits per sample, channels, all of the things that you audiophiles out there are going to be familiar with. And relationships specific to the recording. How many tracks are there? What is the number of any individual track, etc. So you get a large number of characteristics of recordings and pieces of music more broadly. All of the entities and relationships that you might want to talk about in relation to a piece of music, from the music itself to agents, people and organizations involved in the creation of that piece of music, to how that music is packaged and distributed. Now, another ontology that's recommended in the linked data book is this one from the Creative Commons. If you're not familiar with the Creative Commons, it's a really interesting project worth reading about more, but in short, it's a project to create licensing agreements that are different than the traditional, at least United States, copyright agreements where all rights are reserved. Creative Commons allows you to specify rights where you can give some rights back to the public domain and allow reuse in ways that are a little bit trickier to do under traditional, at least United States, copyright law. So Creative Commons has created a vocabulary for describing copyright as a set of RDF triples. So you have entities like work and license and jurisdiction, things that are going to be important when you're talking about copyright and intellectual property. Obviously, you have to specify the work, but where you're located in the United States versus any other country, the laws are going to be different. You have a set of declarations about permissions, permission to reproduce a work, permission to distribute a work, permission to share a work or create derivative works, etc. And a set of declarations about what the license allows you to do or not do. If the license permits or prohibits, etc. So again, you get a ontology, a set of vocabulary terms that lay out in RDF triples things that you may want to discuss if you're describing a work that has intellectual property implications. Now, the point here is not to exhaustively demo for you, not exhaustively give you a show and tell of these ontologies. Because if I wanted to do that, frankly, that could be a never-ending project all by itself, because on the one hand, there are simply too many of them. And on the other hand, that's not what I'm trying to accomplish here. What I'm trying to accomplish here is to show you two things. First, to show you that there are lots of ontologies, lots of vocabularies out there already, so that if you have a need for structured data about a particular kind of thing, chances are that somebody has already created that. chances are that someone has already built a way to describe whatever kind of resource you need to describe in a structured way. And the second point is, going along with that, if you remember the recommendation from the linked data book that you should reuse existing vocabularies whenever possible, you should do that so that your data will interoperate with other people's data, other data sets already out there in the world. So use of pre-existing ontologies and vocabularies allows you and your data set to hook into all of this infrastructure that already exists that makes linked data possible. It allows you to leverage the work done by other people in developing standards and ontologies and metadata to describe just about anything that exists. It allows you to leverage prior work for your own purposes, which brings me to the subject of linked open data.